Hey everybody, welcome back to NikkiT.live. I'm your host Nick Taylor, and today I'm hanging out with Ian Douglas. Ian, how you doing today?
What's up, everybody? Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Pretty good. I just realized I forgot to put my name in my image there, so just doing that. But aside from that,
All good.
doing well. It's a
Good to
busy
see you.
day.
Me
I'm
too.
sure. I'm sure you have busy days too.
Yeah, no rest for for the developer relations group among us for sure. It's
Yeah,
a busy
yeah.
time, especially with AI and AI tooling and everything going on in that realm right now. Like it's nonstop. It's a roller coaster, but it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of the AI roller coaster, you're over at Block right now. I can't remember
Mhm.
when you started there. I think it was either last fall or maybe this year. I can't remember, but you've been there for a minute now.
Almost a year. So I started at Square, which is kind of
Okay.
the point of sale terminals that you see in like coffee shops and stores and so on. And then I got moved into Block into the open source team over there back
Okay.
in March, I think, of this year. So I've been there on that team now for about 6 months, and
Okay.
primarily just working on this AI agent tool that we've been building as a company called Goose,
Yeah.
and just working on a lot of content for that and finding interesting sort of like conference talks and doing meetups and hackathon like hack nights, not hackathons, but like hack nights where it's like, hey, come hang out with us and vibe code with Goose. We got the vibe code with Goose t-shirt going on.
Oh, nice. I gotta
So
snag
yeah,
one of those.
we have all kinds of fun. So yeah, it's been busy, but it's been really good. Lots of content, no shortage of topics in today's realm of using AI and things like that. So it's been great.
Yeah, there's a few things in AI going on, it seems. I've
Yeah.
uh I've definitely been deep in MCP land as well. It's model context protocol, and I know Goose has been doing a lot with that too. And
Mhm.
it's yeah, no, it's sorry, I had a double.
No.
My audio was playing from the LinkedIn. This is a side note, but I remember dropping you a mess. No, I dropped it on LinkedIn, I think, and you answered me, and I was like, why can I not like comment on my own live stream? And then you DM
Yeah,
me, and
'cause you
you're
have to
like, oh,
actually play the video.
yeah, and I'm like, that makes total sense in terms of spam if it's like not you, the person doing the live stream or the speaker, but it
Right.
seems kind of weird that you have to anyways. So,
Watch
I
yourself
just
on LinkedIn. Yeah. I do the
yeah.
same when I live stream at work. I've got the YouTube up on one window. I've got StreamYard, where we're actually doing a thing. I got another one for LinkedIn. I usually have our Discord chat up and running too. Like, because you
Yeah.
want to pay attention to everything going on, but then you got to go through and mute all those sites. Thank goodness for
Y
Chrome where you can like click on the tab and just say
y
like mute the
yeah.
site for now. So you don't have to worry about
No.
volume levels and stuff. But yeah, good times.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally, totally. So, yeah, so that's what happened. I usually have like I think my Twitch and YouTube are muted by default, but the LinkedIn it always pops on, and so anyways, I heard you speaking for a second, and I'm like, oh, he answered pretty quickly, and I was like, oh no, that's what he just said. So, anyways, I digress. I digress.
Yeah, it's all
Um,
good.
yeah, we kind of like these titles do mean something when I do the live stream. A lot of times it's really just so I can make a social card, but they are relevant to what we're going to talk about, and kind of went with like AI buffet, but it is kind of true. It is the AI buffet today. We're going to kind of chat about. We're going to talk about MCP, so the model context protocol, vibe prompting, which I vibe code, and I feel like I'm decent at prompting, but I'm curious what vibe prompting is, and obviously we're going to talk about Goose and have some fun over there. So I guess I guess where do you want to get started? We can literally go from any point. It's up to you.
Let's start with the vibe prompting, and then I think we can kind of transition into MCP and doing the demos and get you building some stuff maybe.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Um,
let's do that.
so yeah, so like a lot of people have been, kind of on the vibe coding sort of bandwagon. Not, I guess bandwagon's maybe not the right word, but a lot of people are really, really into vibe coding. Is like go build a quick prototype for a thing. Like maybe it's not production ready, but it's
Yeah,
definitely something that you can put together. And then it's this kind of workflow of you give it a really sort of vague idea, it goes and builds a thing, and then you go back and you refine that idea and it changes it a little bit over time. Like, make that color blue, move that button over here, make a page that does this. Or if you're
Yeah, yeah.
making a game, like make this kind of character and so on and so on. And there's a lot of really interesting things that come out of that. But what I find is you end up using way more tokens with vibe coding because you're constantly going back and trying to change things. And every time you tell your AI agent or whatever tool you're in to go make a change, it has to go kind of resample your code and send all that back over to the LLM to try to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So I kind of came up with this idea of like, well, people are going back and forth and they're iterating on this idea of their code. What if we just iterate on the prompt itself and spend
Okay.
time thinking about, hey, AI, I've got an idea for an app. Help me make this prompt better and better and better so that when I do give the prompt to AI, I don't have to iterate on the code as much. And so the
Okay,
idea
okay.
is like you have that conversation with AI about, this is the kind of app I want to make. Pretend you're also a senior level developer, you're also a security architect, you're also DevOps, you're also QA. Like ask me questions about what it is I want to build and refine the idea to where it still feels like I'm vibe coding later, but the
Yeah.
initial things that get built with that vibe coding are actually closer to what I wanted than just go make me a
Okay.
tic-tac-toe game or something. It's like, okay, well, it can go make like some fun looking tic-tac-toe game. But if you have something specific in mind,
Yeah.
then work at the prompt and make that prompt better and better and have that conversation with your AI tool about making the initial vibe coding prompt better. And then
Okay.
you get a better outcome. Because having that conversation about the prompt itself is way less tokens.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like having a pre-meeting before a meeting, or like how are you going to prepare so that when you get into that meeting, you got everything you need. Is kind of how I liken that a little bit. And so there are certainly
Okay.
best practices around prompt engineering. Like you give it a role, you give it a task, you tell it what to do and what not to do. I actually gave a talk recently where I'm like, you need to treat AI a little bit like Yoda from Empire Strikes Back. Do and do not because you don't want it to try, right? And so you have to
Yeah.
literally put in your prompt like do this, do not do this, do not do this because you don't want it to hallucinate. And so the more you can refine that prompt and make that prompt what you want to kind of get started with everything else, the better your first sort of draft of that application is going to be.
Okay, okay, gotcha. I I think okay, I didn't realize that that's what it was. I kind of do that right now, like or in some form, like because like a lot of times, like you said, like I'll know like okay, I don't know, gonna build this app. It's gonna be a CRUD app, this, and then I typically will. I should probably automate this, but I basically say like, can you write this prompt in a form that like Claude understands or that like
Mm.
Copilot understands, and then all of a sudden I get more structured, and then like you're saying, I'll be like, oh well, we're def. I mean, and there's obviously like instructions already within these things sometimes, but like yeah, I'll say like, yeah, if it's building UI, use Shad CN and stuff, and then I'll tweak things like, not just a React project. It's like I want to use TanStack instead, or So,
Right.
okay, so I got you, and it makes sense, like you said, because I remember
Mhm.
I don't know if you've used Bolt at all, but like when I first started using Bolt, I was just trying it out, and I was just like, make me a website of something or whatever, and then
Right.
you get in that classic error loop, trying this thing or whatever, and then I slowly kind of learned, okay, it's like in general, like even in like forget AI for a sec, the more context you give to somebody, the better they'll be able to help you, I guess,
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and the big problem I find, especially when you're feeding those errors back in, is you're using a ton of tokens, but then the
yeah,
context window of like how much the AI can kind of cram into its own sort of temporary headspace of what it is you're asking it to do, as that starts to fill up, it gets less and less effective. And so
yeah,
it's actually better to have lots of smaller conversations with your AI where if you have like a starting position and then you can kind of start a new session and say, okay, based on these notes, I need you to go do this task. and then it does that task. Great. Close that chat,
Yeah.
start a new chat. Based on this outline, go do this task. And so then it can just pick up the context it needs just for that one task. But when you have these really long drawn out coding sessions where you're like, okay, now go do this, now go do this, now go do this, and it's all in the same chat, you're filling up
Yeah.
that context window. And one nice thing that we've done in Goose is we've got a way to sort of automate the compression of that context window. And so
Okay.
as it starts to fill up, Goose will start to recognize like, hey, you're kind of reaching a limit here. Let me kind of compact all of this. So we'll keep the
Okay.
most recent stuff, but we'll try to like deduplicate the conversation, or, maybe there's some intelligence in there that if it sees that, you ran your test suite, well, maybe we can throw out all of that out of the context window because we may not
Okay.
need
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
now because you're working on a completely different thing. So there's probably some intelligence there about like what to compact. Or I mean, it could be as simple as like, hey, just go through and like just summarize all of this into a new summary, make that the new context window, so that you
Okay.
don't run out. And so it'll still remember like bits and pieces about the conversation, but the more you compact it, again, you're losing the fidelity on that over time. And so it's
Yeah.
better to
Totally.
actually have lots of smaller chats where you just have it focus on like one particular thing.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I remember Ebony was on the live stream. I think it was earlier this year. It was on, yeah, I can't remember when it was, but when I started in January at Pomerium. But yeah, she was mentioning. I think a lot of tools have this now, or not tools, but like MCP clients or agents. This notion of memory. Not
Mhm.
like obviously. I don't know. People always kind of associate it with like human memory, but it's literally just keeping it there. But so that helps. And if, like you said, you kind of whittle down things to get to the crux of it, because it totally makes
Yeah.
sense. Like if I ran a test suite, I've got all this output that just said pass, 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 fail, or whatever. It's like it's literal noise, like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
One thing I like doing with the memory, especially for what I do, is I say, hey, remember that if I ask you to write some Python, I want you to use this version of Python. I want you to use these libraries as a default. But if you need to use
okay,
something else, you can. And then when I'm doing my writing, here are, stylings about how I want to do writing. And if I ask for a blog post, go get my blog post rules out of this file. Or if I need like more of a social media, kind of spin on what I'm writing, then I can give it some limitations on I need output for the following social networks with these lengths. And so as I'm then prompting in Goose, I can say, I need to make a social post for promoting my latest YouTube video, and it'll go through and pick up just those rules, and it'll write things a little differently. So that's how I use the memory feature myself. I've worked with some
okay,
people though where they're like, oh yeah, go run that test suite and remember what passed and failed, but then you're filling up that memory every time. And what happens in a lot of these AI
yeah,
agents is that whole memory gets sent in your context window every time you send a prompt. And even if you start a brand new chat, you're working on some completely different project, that memory is still part of your core AI agent's sort of memory
yeah,
overall, like long term memory. And so, you're working on a front end site and you're like, hey, remember how this stuff works. But then later you're working on a blog post. Well, as you're prompting AI of like, go help me build this outline, it's taking all those
yeah,
memories of how you did that front end, and it's also sending all of that in that context window. Now you're filling up your context window with stuff that's unrelated.
yeah,
And so you do have to be careful about how these memory tools are storing things and which ones are actually sending as part of the context window whenever you're sending a prompt. So you have to be kind of careful about that. Otherwise, yeah, you're using up tons of tokens on that kind of stuff when you
yeah.
don't need to be.
Yeah, for sure. And you might not realize, like, why is it giving me a weird answer? Like, why is why I'm writing a blog post about like AI evals. Why is it giving me React components or like
Right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so that gives some good context on that. And I like what you said to just like going clean slate once you have like what you're happy with. I think
Mhm.
that makes sense. I that's kind of how I operate. Not all the time. I forget to clear sometimes, and then like you said, you get some weirdness happening because you completely forget that you didn't wipe it. But
Yeah.
okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And like this gets down to the like, it's always called the context window, but like context in language just meaning like the more you can provide to somebody, the better an answer you're going to get. So like the more streamlined this is and specific, the better. So that's cool. So all right, so
Yep.
vibe prompting for the win.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
And
and
and part of
typically,
part of why we have that context window too is because LLMs are stateless. Like they're kind of like HTTP in that regard. Like they don't remember one
yeah,
conversation to the next, and so you have to kind of give it that context every time so that it can kind of build on this is what we just did. Here's the next thing they're asking me to do. So it can kind of keep
yeah,
the whole thing in line. Otherwise, it's like, oh, let me send you off in this completely wrong direction. So that's why we have that context window in the first place. And so
yeah,
making sure that the context window is either small enough that older things can kind of drop off or you can pack it from time to time, but better is just start a new session. Like when you're finished with that feature, just start a new session and say like, hey, go look at this sort of PRD or how I want to
yeah.
build out this project, and here's this next task that I want you to do. You'll find a lot more success with the AI prompting with that.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And I like that you mentioned PRD because I found generating a PRD is super helpful. And I was actually on a live stream with Josh Sear. I can't remember how you pronounce his last name. Josh Sear. He's the DevRel over at Laravel, and
Mhm.
Laravel just recently released an MCP server called Boost, and so we
Okay,
tried it out on the stream yesterday.
nice.
Oh, I got to turn off Nightbot on Twitch. Sorry, I see you're
All
posting
good.
those things there.
Yeah, I was just
I'll
posting a
I'll
link to
post it.
our documentation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'll drop that in.
you you were talking about the MCP server yesterday.
Yeah, so Laravel is pretty neat. Like they've got like it's a pretty good ecosystem, and we basically bootstrapped a new project just with like the Laravel. I forget what the bootstrapping. There's PHP Artisan and Laravel. I think it was just create, kind of like when you do a create with any of like the front end frameworks. And then so we just got like literally the scaffolded just whatever the app out of the box is,
Mhm.
and then we basically vibe coded wanted to do an app where we're just like logging visits to the veterinarian. And so like we
Nice.
basically gave the context, we kind of trimmed up the stuff, like I vibe prompted the prompt, and then we sent that to Boost, which is the Laravel MCP server, and
Okay.
it it like basically gave a pretty flawless app. There was like UI wise, I would have added some padding to some things, but like it literally worked. You could view your visits, add a visit, edit a visit, and it worked pretty well. And like it's not always the case. I
Yeah.
know. Like I usually expect things not to be completely running,
Right.
usually, but it actually did a pretty good job. And and this is the neat thing about MCPs. I mean, we're talking about context, like MCPs can bring a lot of extra context for specific things. I know you've been working a lot with MCPs with Goose and stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely get to Goose. It'll be kind of like the build up to let's get to Goose. But I guess kind of what have you been seeing in like in model context protocol land, I guess recently or lately?
Um, we actually had a really good blog post come out back in June, I believe, where we're kind of coaching people on how to think about building MCP servers.
Okay.
Because we see a lot of these companies. Like I come from a really big API background. Like most of my career has been in API architecture,
Yeah.
and we see a lot of people trying to build MCP servers around their APIs. The danger is trying to come up with like an MCP endpoint for every API endpoint, and that's not really the way to think about it. Because
Yeah.
what we want our agents to do is like when I tell my kid to go clean their room, I want to give them one instruction: go clean your room. I don't want to have to
Yeah.
tell them like pick up your clothes, put the books on the bookshelf, put toys away, make your bed, vacuum the floor. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to have to give them those instructions every single time. I want to give them one instruction and have it go do a bunch of things. And we need to treat MCP kind of the same way as we're building MCP servers. That, yeah, you can have those endpoints if that endpoint is meant to do like one very specific thing. But a lot of
Yeah.
times what we want our agent to be is like, I want to give you that high level, like, go build me an app, and you know the breakdown of what that means. And so we want to do the same thing with MCP. So one of our engineers actually wrote a really great blog post about how to think about designing an MCP server that will
Okay.
interact with any AI agent that'll work with MCP. But obviously, we do a lot with MCP with Goose because Goose is an MCP client that we want to kind of empower our users to be able to give Goose that high level instruction. And then based on
Okay.
MCP and its sort of high level instructions, that the combination of Goose and MCP is going to go figure out how to do what you need it to do, as opposed to like feeling like you're micromanaging, like do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. We want
Yeah.
to be able to just give it a high level instruction and let it go figure out what to go do. But there are cases where that's not necessarily enough. Like I'm working on a
Hmm.
project right now where it's a security project, and just prompting the AI and the LLM to say, pretend you're a security expert isn't
Hmm.
necessarily enough unless you're sort of guiding it like these are the kinds of things that we're trying to watch for in the security.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's almost too broad to say like you're a programming expert. It's like, okay, but front end, back end, middleware, like firmware level, like what kind of software do you need me to build? And that's where the
Hmm.
context, eventually comes in, where you're being more and more specific about what to do. So there's kind of a
Yeah.
fine line between like micromanaging your AI and being able
Yeah.
to use it as a high level tool where you can give it kind of an abstract, vague idea, and just having
Hmm.
that conversation about like, hey, keep asking me questions until you're 100% confident of what to go do, and then let it go do its thing and see what it comes up with, and then you can kind of riff on it and iterate from there.
Yeah, for sure. And I like what you said about the API because I built the Dev 2
Yeah,
MCP server
good job
recently.
on that.
Thanks, man. And all the API because Dev 2 has an API, so I basically mapped one to one the tool call to an API. I'm probably gonna revisit to see like there's probably some where I can probably do two API calls, but like it was just kind of like a first iteration.
Sure.
But to your point about like you're getting your kid to clean the room, I kind of equate it to like you want to be more declarative when you want it to do something as opposed to saying like it's like take me to Starbucks. You don't want to say, okay, you got to go 2 kilometers on North Street and then like it'll figure that out, like
Right.
so I think that's where the disconnect with like I think there are some cases where the API one to one with a tool can make sense, but
Mhm.
a lot of times if I say like I need a flight. Like I was hanging with Tejas Kumar a couple months ago, and he's like, the example he gave was like, I need to take a flight from Germany to San Francisco. This is my budget. I need to arrive at this time on this day and leave on this day. Just figure it out. That is not
Yeah.
one API call.
Right.
That's like,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's across like multiple APIs as well. Like you're not
yeah,
just going to find one API that can do all those things. I mean, maybe Google, but like,
yeah,
even Google's going to have like tons of different APIs to go hit to try to figure all those things out. And that's really the power of
yeah,
MCP and using AI with that, where the LLM can help with that reasoning and sort of that deep thinking about, okay, this is what I'm
yeah,
being asked to do. Let me break that down into tasks. Now, what tools do I have available? Can I go call tools or not? Because some LLMs can't call tooling. And that's something that we see a lot with Goose is we have people ask like, hey, can I use this LLM? We tell them like
yeah,
you can use any LLM you want, but Goose is really made for tool calling because we want
yeah,
Goose to help you do things, not just be a chat interface like a chat GPT kind of thing. We want it to
yeah,
actually go do the work for you, as opposed to saying like, hey, how do I go write this code? We want Goose to actually go write you the code.
yeah.
um, and so some LLMs can't do tool calling, and
Hmm.
so it can, though, kind of give those instructions back to whatever the AI agent is. And if the AI agent has some way of sort of parsing that out and actually going and running tools through maybe some other kind of LLMs, then you get into like LLM routing and all kinds of really interesting things. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely not one API call to like do a whole trip plan like that. But the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world the world's powered on APIs now, and so how do we make those APIs better and better to work with AI? OpenAI came out with kind of a spec back in, I want to say March 2023, where they're
Okay.
like, here's how to build an open API spec that you can give us at OpenAI so that ChatGPT can interact with your API. And that actually worked really well. But all it really meant was you're taking that open API spec and you're writing a ton of instructions and documentation into that open API spec so that
Yeah.
ChatGPT had all the context it needed. And that's really what MCP has kind of become, is you're
Mhm.
giving it the context within the, like, how you're building that MCP server to tell it this is what this API endpoint can do. Here's how to use it. Here are what these parameters are and how to use the parameters and what kind of response you should get back and things like that. And that's really what
Yeah.
MCP has kind of become, is at least for API calls, is it's almost this wrapper now around your API where you're telling it like, hey, go bundle my API and my documentation together. And that's kind of what some people are doing as their MCP.
Yeah, and it's I'm glad you brought the wrapper up because like some people are just like, isn't it just an API wrapper? Like why even have MCP? But I think the reason is just kind of all the things we just talked about. It's like obviously as a dev, I could say like, okay, I'm gonna call an API, I can wire something up, but like I think it's just observation and just my own observations, but like a lot of devs are using MCPs right now, but like I don't see I know Block is using a lot of MCPs internally now, but like I would say like for the most part, anytime I hear about MCPs, it's always in the context of devs using them, so it's like if I sent my mom ChatGPT with like MCP connected, that will help her versus here you go, mom, here's the LLM, and yeah, just call an API, like
Right.
it's not, I mean, doable potentially, obviously, but it's I think it's like not to no pun intended, but the context of where you're calling these things matters. So
Hmm.
that's
For
that's
sure.
why I don't think it's just the wrapper. Like I know what you meant by
Yeah.
wrapper, but I feel like there's other people that consider the wrapper in a like just the one to one, and it's like just an unnecessary layer. But
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
And that's one of the motivations for why we wrote Goose as well, that we didn't want you to have to feel like an engineer to go interact with AI. You know,
Yeah,
if you can get somebody to set up those MCPs for you, now you've got Goose that can go and do all these things for you. And you can just have a conversation about what you want to have happen. And Goose and the MCPs and all those APIs, they're going to go figure all that out with the LLM so that you can just have a
yeah,
conversation about it. You don't have to worry so much about like, go do exactly this and exactly this, because we wanted everybody in our organization to be able to use AI to be more
yeah.
productive at what they do. And the only way to do that was to build a tool that didn't make you feel like you needed a master's in computer science to go interact with AI.
Yeah. And it's still early days for MCPs. Obviously, it's like it's still wild to think it only came out last November, and it like the
Mhm.
amount of traction it's gotten already. Like, I don't. I'm trying to think of another like protocol or tech that caught on that quickly. Like, I want to say maybe jQuery, but that's maybe. But like, I'm trying to think of something like obviously like AI anything caught like wildfire once ChatGPT
Right.
came out, but it's just been pretty wild to see, like, it's literally not even a year yet. We're, like, 9 months in, I think. So,
Yeah.
and there's, like, lots of people on the board. Like, it's Anthropic, there's OpenAI
Mhm.
contributing to this now. I think one of your colleagues from the Goose team is on the MCP steering committee?
So we helped shape a lot of what MCP was. We were actually building something very similar to MCP internally at Block,
Oh,
and we
okay.
had a good relationship with the people at Anthropic. And Anthropic, and I guess these engineers were talking, and between Block and Anthropic, and we kind of realized like, oh, Anthropic is also doing this too. They were a little bit ahead of where we were, but we were able to kind of give them that early input. So yeah, it
Okay.
helped kind of develop a really good partnership to kind of get MCP out there. And yeah, seeing other people get on board, and now I'm seeing, I think it was Microsoft a week or so ago, they come out with what they're calling Web MCP. Now they want
Okay.
you to be able to build your JavaScript websites with sort of MCP hooks so that AI agents can interact with like a whole website now using MCP. So yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna be really interesting to see like where these things are gonna kind of sort of build up and take off. And Google's doing a lot of like agent to agent kind of work, which,
Yeah.
whether that talks over MCP or some other kind of protocol, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch how these things kind of play nicely together in the
Yeah.
coming months and even over the next year. Like I imagine if we had this conversation a year from now, we'd be like, dang, look at everything that just happened in the last year. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
we're gonna be saying that a lot for
Yeah.
sure.
Everything I said 6 months ago, I was completely wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Maybe.
or not wrong, but now it's completely different, So
Yeah.
disregard
Yeah.
that conversation we had about vibe prompting. Now it's completely
Yeah.
different, 6 months from now.
Yeah. This live
Yeah,
stream
but yeah,
never
good.
happened, people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I mean, it's I think the work that you did on that Dev 2 MCP was actually really cool and really powerful to like help people understand like it's easy to interact with these kinds of technologies. And seeing that you built that and then seeing Dev2 kind of promote it too is really neat. Is like, hey, look at what somebody built for us, this is awesome. And just
Yeah.
open sourcing that kind of stuff and seeing what's out there, help improve it, make things better. It also puts an example out there for like, hey, here's some different ways that we can build MCP. It just makes the whole ecosystem better when we're sharing that kind of stuff. Like I
Yeah.
think you know this about me. I've kind of got this motto of like, share what you know and we all win. And I
Yeah.
think that that really leads well into kind of this open source mindset of like, we want to share what we do so that everybody around us gets better by sharing the knowledge and sharing the tools and things like that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to
Yeah.
see like what that Dev 2 MCP becomes, aside from just
Yeah.
like, hey, go auto post a thing or, go find the latest
Yeah.
posts about some topic or whatever, and like then go summarize that for me and send me an email with that summary. And now I don't have to go subscribe to 50 newsletters to go find the bits of things that are relevant to me and have to weed through all the stuff that's not relevant. I could
Yeah.
have, I could build a little like scheduled bot now that says like, go find all the articles about Python and AI, on Dev2, go summarize that for me and like write me a summary every day. That
Yeah.
kind of stuff would be really awesome to go build.
Yeah, and like I open source it just because like I'm a fan of open source. I've been working in open source professionally since 2020 and
Nice.
contributing since like 2015. And that's also another thing we're going to get into Goose in a sec here too. But I love the fact that Goose is open source. Like you didn't, it like blocks like a publicly traded company. They didn't have to do that. But I think I like the open source model because you just get more eyes on it. Like I've worked in closed source. There's nothing wrong with closed source, but like when you put it out there to the world, like you could literally have somebody across the world go, "Oh, I found a security issue in your thing. I'll create an issue or I'll file a if you have like I forget what it is, submitting CVEs and stuff, like
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
get that kind of like interactions when it's like literally just your team of 15 or whatever in closed source. So
exactly.
it's yeah, no, I think it's just really cool that
Yeah.
it's been open sourced.
Yeah, like if you look at the contributors, I think we got over 250 contributors now to Goose, and a lot of
Okay.
those folks are community members where they're like, "Hey, what if Goose could do this?" Or they're contributing blogs and tutorials and like all kinds of interesting things, but they're helping improve Goose as well as a product. And so
Yeah.
we love that. We're going in all the time and we're kind of reviewing, the kinds of contributions that people are making, and it's super helpful. I mean, obviously our team's like kind of all up at the
Yeah,
top,
up top.
working
Yeah.
on this stuff too. But if you start scrolling down, you'll start seeing like community members who are, just, hey, what if Goose could do this or that? And
Yeah.
we do an occasional like community shout out to people that are contributing and things like that. So
Okay.
yeah, definitely
Nice.
definitely go, hey, there's me. So yeah, you can definitely go look at the Discord community that we have. We got a lot of people in there that are talking about Goose on a regular basis,
Okay.
and just helping make it all better. It's really really fantastic.
Yeah, I'll just go to the main Goose site here and I'll just drop this in the chat for people. Is that your coworker Anthony, I think?
It is, yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I met him I was at the Apollo MCP Builder Series in New York
nice,
City about
yeah, yeah.
it's a month ago, and yeah, he was giving a talk there as well. So it was nice to meet him, and he had a great talk there too.
Yeah, yeah, Anthony's great.
Cool. All right, I'll post this in a second. I'll just add it to my repertoire of El Gato stuff here.
Cool.
I'm normally a little more prepared with my buttons, but it's been a busy day, so
All good.
yeah. So I guess let's talk about Goose. So like you said, so I guess what would you consider Goose? Like it's definitely an MCP client because it supports
Mhm.
MCPs, but like I guess as a whole, what would you call Goose?
So the tag that we give it is that it runs on your desktop. It's local, it's free, it's open source. It can use any LLM that you want to use.
Okay.
Some LLMs work better for certain tasks, obviously, but you can plug in any LLM that you already use. So if you use GPT, you can plug in GPT. If you use Gemini, you can use Gemini. If you use Anthropic models, you can choose any of those. If you
Okay.
want to run some local ones, you can too. We've had mixed results with Olama, but it's definitely getting better over time.
Okay.
And it's some stuff that I'm also working on the side of like how can we make this Olama experience better for people that want to run local models. They don't want to be sending stuff out into the cloud, especially secret files and things like that that they don't want
Yeah.
leaked or anything
Totally.
like that because you never know what people are doing with your data. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
so looking at the interface that you have here, it looks a little bit like a chat GPT kind of chat, but under
Yeah.
the hood, because this can do MCP calls, it can actually go call the tools and actually go do things on your behalf. And we wanted something that looked friendly. It didn't look like a code editor. It doesn't make you feel like you're locked into an IDE. We just wanted a
Hmm.
really friendly kind of interface. And then, yeah, you can obviously see your chat and your history and things like that. The
Yeah.
nice thing that we have as well is you can go in and you can save that session as what we call a recipe, and then you can
Okay.
just replay that recipe over and over again. Like if you say like, "Hey, I want to go build a summary of here's a file with like a bunch of blog post ideas, and like go build me an outline for that blog post."
Okay.
Based on that file of ideas, then you can come in here and you can basically refine that as a recipe now and say, okay,
Okay.
like you've got here, you're an expert Python developer, blah, blah, blah. And you can scroll down in here a little bit and kind of see like this is effectively what the prompt is going to be that you pass in. And then the initial prompt is like, what can I help you with? That's where you're
Okay.
telling the user, like, hey, what can I help with? And then as they have that chat, they know that this sort of context is already set up around like what is the project type, what version
Okay.
of Python do you want to use, things like that. And
Okay.
then if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see activities, and that's usually like a list of tasks, like coding, debugging, and so on. You can give it a name, and then you can call
Okay.
that recipe by name. You can do it from the command line in something we call headless mode, so you don't have
Okay.
to open the interactive. um, Harry Potter fan, I see. um, and so, now at the command line, you can say, "Hey, Goose, go run the recipe called Slytherin," and
Okay.
it'll go. If you give it in those instructions, if you give it a set of tasks like go do this, go do this, go do this. Now, the recipe that
Okay.
you just showed is meant to be an interactive. Like, go ask the user what kind of project they actually want to go build.
Okay.
But if you were to create a recipe that said, go get the latest blog posts on Dev2, then
Yeah.
Goose is going to look at that and go back and forth with the LLM about what MCPs you have installed. And it'll say, oh, wait, you
Okay.
have an MCP for Dev2. So let's go use that. Let's go see what's available in that MCP service to
Okay.
then go talk to Dev2 and figure out, okay, Ian wants a list of topics about, or a list of articles about this topic. Let's go grab that and compile that. And now what does Ian want to do with that? Does he want an email summary? Do I have a way to send an email? Do I save it as a file instead that he can just look at locally?
Okay.
So you can get really detailed to where it doesn't have to be an interactive prompt. And
Okay.
then what I like doing with that then is running these things in headless mode where I can set it up as a cron job on my laptop and just say like,
Okay.
hey, every morning at 8 a.m., go summarize all these articles for me so that when I come in, I can just open my editor with that known file name and I see that summary right away and I can kind of go through and read.
Oh,
I can
okay.
see the URLs and so on. And so that just runs in headless mode in a cron job.
Okay.
I've also been doing a lot of work over the last couple of weeks around getting Goose to run inside a Docker container to do automated things like security scans and things like that. And
Okay.
so again, when you're running in a CI/CD pipeline, you don't have this interactive chat that you would see here. And so you
Yeah.
want it to be kind of this offline, like, go do this thing. I trust that you know what to go do. I usually write an instruction in there, like, if you're not 100% confident of every single step, then don't do any of it. And so it'll go
Yeah.
through and kind of analyze what to do. And if it's ever unsure of what to go do, it'll just stop. That way you don't get like half of the work done and then the other half isn't finished. You want it to be kind of like a database transaction where it's like all or nothing. And so I
Okay.
usually
Yeah.
write that kind of thing into the recipe prompt here as well of like, if you get stuck on any of this, then don't do any of the work. Like, go through and analyze what you need to do. And if you're unsure, then don't do any of it. And then,
Yeah.
I see, I would get up in the morning and go, wait, I didn't get my summary. Okay, something broke. Now I can go
Okay.
analyze like what broke about like building me that summary, that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool. And just like a real recipe, it's like, hey, don't bake that cake if you don't have flour, you know? It's like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 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 I mean, it could be a really interesting cake, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you might get a quiche or something instead of a cake, if you
Yeah,
if
or
you leave out certain
matzo cake
ingredients.
maybe,
So
I don't know.
right. Yeah. So yeah, you could end
Yeah.
up with something that you really don't expect. And so like this is where you have to be very, very specific if you're going to run in headless mode. You have to be really specific about exactly what you want it to go do so that there's no hallucination, there's no guessing, or something only gets half finished.
Okay.
It's all or nothing. So this is where I would vibe prompt to come up with a really solid prompt that I can put that
Okay.
prompt then into the recipe and it knows exactly what to go do. And so I'll spend time
Okay.
with AI going, this is the high level idea. Help me build a prompt that I can put into a recipe. And then it'll kind of riff on that and have that conversation with me. And now I can go build a recipe out of that.
Okay. Well, why don't we do that then? Because
Yeah. Okay.
we were talking briefly about the Dev 2 MCP before the live stream. And you brought it up. So yeah, so for some context, I created the Dev 2 MCP server. Well, for a few reasons. I used to work there, so it's a bit of it's like nostalgia slash still a fan
Sure.
of the site, but the real reason why I created it, well, a couple. One, I'm building out demos all the time, and I need to build some MCP servers, and this was a real world thing I needed. And I haven't done it yet, and maybe we can start it on here today. But basically, like I'm sure, like when you write blog posts and stuff, like we all have our own voice or style. I'm typically kind of, at least for like personal blogs, it's still educational, but I'm very like informal, not like sounding like a surfer dude, but
Right.
it's there's a style or tone to how I write.
Sure.
And so my idea was I can pull in my blog posts, and because like typically what I do right now, prior to the Dev 2 MCP server, would be like, okay, I'm gonna write something for work, or like a new blog post for Dev 2 in my blog, and then I'll have initial ideas, and I'll have some kind of rough draft. Sometimes it's like in audio format, like if I go out for a walk, I just transcribe it, and then I just, it's like literally raw thoughts all over the place, or I bring in like
Mhm.
maybe a transcription, like say from like this live stream, and I just kind of put it all in there, and I just say like, whip up some kind of rough draft or outline based on everything I just gave you, and then once I start building the actual blog posts, it's like I'll typically say, "That's okay, but I wouldn't write it this way." Here are
Mhm.
3 examples, and I'll provide links to like recent blog posts of mine usually. And then it'll
Mhm.
go, "Oh, I've analyzed, the style and tone of your blog post. Let me reformat it." And so I've been doing that more in a manual way, and it works
Right.
obviously, but it is somewhat tedious. So like
Well,
that was like
let's do
one of the
this.
big reasons.
So let's do this. Let's build a task that you can run periodically within Goose, where we say go to Dev 2, grab my 5 most recent blog posts, analyze them for sentence structure and grammar use and tone of voice and so on, and rebuild like a style guide. Like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Go rebuild like a writing style guide based on my 5 most recent posts. And then as you
Okay.
post new things, it'll just always like kind of rewrite that thing every time you post something new. You could even tell it like keep track of the last 5 that you looked at. So if you run this thing every
Okay.
day, it won't go reanalyze things if you haven't posted anything. But the next time you post something, it can say, "Oh, there's something new. Let me
Yeah.
go, rerun that whole thing again." And you know, because our voice can change over time. Like
Yeah.
when I started blogging 20 years ago, I was super casual all the time. Where now I want to be more refined and more professional and think about the persona of my audience of who's actually reading this thing. Where 20 years ago, I didn't
Yeah.
give a rip. It was about what I wanted to sort of communicate.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to read it, great. And if you didn't, that's fine too. But now it's like, okay, I want specific kinds of people to read my posts. And so
Yeah.
I need to speak their language and be able to sort of reach them as an audience. So let's start with kind of writing this out, and we'll do a bit of like a vibe prompt thing here to get this started.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
For
let's
sure.
say like go get the latest 5 blog posts for your username on Dev2.
Okay. I'm
Um,
gonna do a quick check here because I had to nuke Goose the other day because I didn't realize I was in an old version. So like this is
oh,
like
okay.
the third time I'm seeing the new version, and I might have wiped it. Is it? Oh no, it's still there. Let me
Yep, still
see.
there.
Okay, wait.
Okay,
I gotta.
failed to
Oh,
activate.
that's
So
the
the nice
local one.
Yeah. So the nice thing about this is you don't have to keep those enabled every single time.
Okay.
Goose in its session, if you say go use Dev2, it'll go enable it just for that session. And then when you close that
Ah,
session, it'll
okay.
turn it back off. So it'll only keep those
Nice.
things running if you actually need them. So the only ones I actually have turned on all the time are the memory and the developer mode. And I have all the
Okay.
other ones installed, but they're not running all the time.
Okay, got you. And this brings up an important point. I'm just gonna get the actual URL. I have one in production.
Okay.
Is this it? Of course, I can't find it right now. Here, let me just log into my site real quickly. Or I guess I can just run it locally. Let me open up VS Code.
Okay.
Uh, that's one of the curses of DevRel. You're running all kinds of stuff. I have stuff in prod. I have stuff on local.
Yep.
Okay, Dev2 MCP. Cool. All right. Let's clear that. npm run dev. All right. I think we're good. We'll just do a check here just to see. Okay, there we go.
Yep. Great.
Nice. Okay. So head
So go
back
back to the chat.
to chat. Okay.
Yep. So go get the 5 most recent posts by whatever your username
Yeah.
on Dev2. And then the LLM will figure out, oh, Dev tool, these are the MCP tools we have available. Let's go use that. Um, and what
Okay.
we want to do here is give it some additional instruction and say, um, now that we have those, go analyze them for the kinds of things that you want it to learn about your tone of voice, where you could
Okay.
say go learn about my how I use grammar, the length of my sentences or the variation of my sentence length, like how I do writing. This is where using GPT, like I see that you're using GPT at the bottom here. GPT does a really good job of analyzing writing, and so
Yeah.
you also kind of need to pick the right LLM for the task that you're doing as well. Some are better at coding, some are better at writing, some are better at like more
Yeah.
creative, like image things. GPT is a really good kind of well-rounded, kind of tool for this. So especially for writing, it'll be really great.
y-
So
Yeah.
you
Totally.
grab the last handful. So now what you want to say is go fetch those articles and analyze them for the following kinds of things, and we can kind of give it like an outline of what we want it to go do.
Okay.
Um, so we want to analyze sentence structure, tone of voice, grammar use. Um, what else could we do? Like um, how I um, like the conversation tone of like how I interact with the reader, things like that. And basically, it's going to go learn all of this. But now we need to tell like what do we want it to do with that summary.
Yeah.
Um, so let's say go write that as a summary file and give it a path like users Nick Taylor
Okay.
slash writing notes or blog writing notes.md or something like that.
Okay.
And so you want to give it like a specific file name. And
Okay.
then the other thing that we'll do before we send this is we want to say, um, add to that file the list of URLs that you analyzed. And then when we turn this into a recipe, what we'll do is we'll refine this prompt a little bit to say, if all of the URLs that you're fetching are the same as the URLs that are already in here, then don't
Yeah.
reanalyze anything. Just don't do anything new.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
so let's go ahead and
Okay.
send that over and then see what it comes up with. I'm kind of curious
Okay.
how it's going to summarize this. So we'll probably open this markdown file that it's going to go make. So there it is going
Yeah.
and fetching everything. The nice thing
Cool.
too is you can also give Goose instructions like go fetch these in parallel. And what it'll do is it'll actually go launch a sub agent in the background and it'll go fetch all 5
Okay.
of them at the same time in parallel. Otherwise, it'll do them sequentially. But you can
Okay.
also say like go fetch all these all at the same time, and it'll go launch like 5 kind of background tasks for Goose in sort of
Okay.
sub agent mode. Um,
Okay. Nice.
okay, they contain a lot of HTML, make it difficult to
Yeah.
extract direct text context without processing. That's fine. So,
Yeah.
but it's also giving you that really good analysis here. So let's go take a look at the markdown and see whether it's actually made that markdown file yet.
Okay.
And
So
then we can go see what's in
let's
that file.
get a bit of real estate here. Let's go. Am I in the right? Okay, so there we go. Yes, I trust.
You trust
No
yourself?
trust issues here. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Cool.
so yeah.
So, okay, they possess friendly conversational tone aimed at informing while remaining approachable. Engagement is encouraged through rhetorical questions. All right, so this is pretty good. Um, Grammar is generally correct. All right, enhancing readability, overly complex sentences. All right. So, I mean, this is a pretty good analysis of what your writing is. Now, you can go in and you can be even more specific, like, track average sentence length. Like, you can get really descriptive as far as how you
Okay.
want it to go analyze what your writing style is. But now that we've got this writing sort of notes document and we have the idea for a recipe, now we can say go turn that chat session into a recipe.
Okay.
And
Can I
so
literally
if we
say? Can I literally ask that in Goose?
there used to be a control right on the screen here. I think they've moved the control, but there used to be a control right on the screen here that said like go turn this session into a recipe. I think they've moved that now.
Okay.
So let's just click on recipes on the left nav bar there.
Yeah.
And there's a way to create a recipe.
Yeah. Or should I
Is
just
that gonna
import that markdown? Or
No, let's create a recipe and let's see whether
okay.
it's going to no. So it's defaulting to this Python one. So
Okay.
let's not do that one. Um,
Okay.
yeah, there used to be a way in. Let's see if we click on history,
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
um,
Maybe convert
and
it or
then
something.
yeah, I think if you just click on it from here, so we don't want to edit the name, but just click on it here, and now well, there's a resume button, but again, there used to be like a turn this into a recipe. I think we've moved the
Okay.
control. Um,
Okay. All
But
good.
what we could do is we can just grab so actually if you just click back on chat, we can go back and we can grab some of those bits and just put them on your clipboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's your token limit thing that it's hitting. And that's just because it had to
Yeah.
go like scrape all this information every time.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
lot of mark HTML.
yeah. So what we can do here is let's just go grab the instructions that we gave it.
Okay.
So like scroll up to the very top and we'll just grab those bits of the prompt that we gave it. And then we'll turn those into a recipe.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Here. Where is it?
we'll grab that first
Oh,
one where
here.
we said go grab the 5 most recent. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, the first part. Okay.
Yeah, because we're going to need that part as well. Right at the very
Okay.
top. Yeah. So we'll just grab that
Cool.
one as well. So let's go build a recipe. And
Oh, whoops.
we don't want to use one. We want to create a new one.
Yeah.
And we'll call
Okay.
this like writing tone just as a title.
Okay.
And the description here is like go analyze my writing style. It can just be whatever description you want. The instructions here are where we need to kind of tell it what we want it to go do. So this is where we'll
Yeah.
paste in those instructions,
Okay.
and then we'll paste in the second part of this that said like, well, we'll inject an instruction in between on these, But what we want to do is we want to have it analyze what the URLs are and what the URLs are in this file to know
Okay.
whether those 5 things are the same. Because if they're the same, we don't want it to reanalyze because we don't want to use our tokens if the
Yeah.
URLs are the
Okay.
same. So we'll still use a couple of tokens to go fetch the URLs and to see
Yeah.
if the URLs are the same. So let's hit enter a couple of times and we'll paste that second part in here.
Okay.
And then in between those instructions, what we want to do is we want to say, um, go fetch the URLs in that file, in that writing notes file, and give it that full path.
Nick Taylor. What was it called? Writing dash notes.
Yep.
MD dash notes.md. Cool.
And if the URLs are the same as the 5 most recent points, then don't do any additional work, just stop.
Okay. Or just stop.
Otherwise, we'll say like, you know, and we can be really explicit on this next one where we can say if the u like if any of the URLs are different, then go fetch all 5 of those articles, analyze the sentence structure, and so on. And so that last instruction will stay pretty much the same.
Print
You can say like
fetch.
or just say continue working
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
because the next instruction is telling it like go fetch the articles and so on. So
Okay.
so now what we should be able to do is in the initial prompt. So when we run this in headless mode, we have to give it a prompt.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do here is we're going to say analyze my writing style based on the following instructions. Now, normally in a recipe, you would be sharing this recipe with other people. Like you would share recipes in
Yeah.
real life. Like here's my mom's, awesome lasagna recipe.
Yeah.
Where in this case, this is just a recipe just for you. And so you can just kind of direct what you want Goose to do. But when we're running Goose in headless mode, you have to provide a prompt.
Okay.
Where normally that prompt would just be shown to the user of like, hey, what do you want me to do today? But in this
Okay.
case, we're telling Goose this is what we want you to go do. So let's scroll down a little bit more.
Okay.
And for the activities, this is optional. We don't have to give it anything here, but we can actually just leave this blank.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I need to debug my blog posts writing
Right.
style.
And then for the
Cool.
recipe name, we'll give this like a tabbed or sorry, like a dashed name, something like analyze
Okay.
dash writing or something like that, because we want to be able to call this recipe by name.
Okay.
So we'll call it analyze writing, and then we'll make it globally available so that we can run this anywhere.
Okay.
So you can run it in the UI, you can run it on the CLI, and what we'll do is we'll open a terminal and we'll see if we can get this working on the CLI for you.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and create the recipe. So now we have
Okay.
it here. If I just double click that or preview, sorry. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So
Yep.
we're good to go.
All right.
All right. So let's go to the CLI. Let's load up Ghosty. Okay.
So what you can do here
And
is, so you mentioned that you had Goose CLI already installed, but it might be old. You can just do Goose update, and
okay.
if it's a new enough version, it'll go update itself. Yep, there it goes.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
so that's going to take just a
Nice.
moment to go download the new version. And the nice thing about the CLI and the UI is it'll use the same configuration, all the recipes, all the MCPs that you have available, which LLM you have picked, they'll all be the
Okay.
same. So now we can just run, let's say Goose. Let's just run Goose from here, and just hit
Okay.
enter, and just say
Okay.
hi or something on here. So what this is going to do is it'll ask for your password and then click always allow.
Yeah.
Um, what that's basically doing is it's giving Goose CLI access to everything that the UI would have, and it's storing all those things in your key ring,
Okay.
like any sort of passwords or API keys and whatever. It'll have access to the key ring basically. So let's just say hi here. Let's just make sure that that's going to work okay. It should still set up to use your GPT-4o.
Okay.
And yep, that's working great. So we can just exit from here. So just type exit
Okay.
and it should stop. Now what we want to do is we want to tell it to go run that recipe. So if we
Okay.
say goose run recipe,
Okay.
and then yeah, analyze dash writing, and it should go try to pick that up by the name.
Okay.
Sorry, dash recipe.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Good old flags. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So now, okay. So now it's looking for the
Uh,
actual. It's looking for the file of the recipe itself.
okay.
So we need to go find that file. So it's probably
Okay.
going to be from your home folder. Go into .config/goose.
Okay.
Like
Cool.
cd, yep, and then let's see what we have in here. So there's a recipes folder, so cd into that,
Okay.
and it should be in there.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Yep.
in
So
there.
there's your analyze writing. So now we can just type cd. We'll go back to your home folder,
Okay.
um, and then we can do the goose run recipe again, but we'll give it the full path to that file.
Okay.
So where we have analyze writing, it'll be like tilde/.config/goose/recipes slash,
Cool.
and then at the end, just hit tab and it'll add the YAML on there. Okay.
Cool. All
So
right.
let's go run that. And then this is what we call headless mode. And so it's going to go
Okay.
run that without any interactivity. And it's going to go read through the recipe, figure out what it needs to go do. Now, in this case, it said like, please provide specific instructions. So we might need to go look at the recipe file
Okay.
itself and see what's in there because apparently something didn't work. So
Okay. So,
let's go take a look at the
okay.
recipe file.
Okay. Config Goose recipes analyze writing. There we go. Come on, code. Did it open it? There we go. Okay,
Okay.
so
So we have a name, we have the prompt, and we have our instructions. So what are we missing in here? Um,
prompt analyze my
we should
writing style.
we should have a version in here as well. So we can add a line with a version and we'll tell it it's version 1.0.
Okay.
But we also need a title on here as well. So we can
Titles
just
here.
oh, it is in there. Yep. So let's see. So I haven't normally seen all of this indented as part of the recipe. Normally, I would take out recipe and just unindent everything else and just have everything kind of at that top level.
Okay.
So let's do that. Let's take out the recipe line. Let's take that out, and we'll unindent those other lines. We'll take out the is global, last modified, is archived. We'll take out those three flags.
Okay.
So we have the name, we have the title, description, instructions, we have the prompt, we have a version. We don't really need anything else here. We could tell it the extensions that we want it to use, but
Okay.
we also want it to kind of understand like which extensions it needs to go use because we want it
Yeah.
to kind of enable those on the fly. So let's see. We have the prompt, we have the instructions. We should be good to go from here. So
Okay. I
let's
can give
save
it
that
a go
file.
again.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
just try that
it's
again in
already
the
saved. Okay. There. Okay.
Okay, so now it found all those instructions. So what we want to do here is we want to go back and refine the prompt and just say,
Okay.
go ahead and do the work. Don't prompt me. Like we can actually add that as part of the prompt or as part
Oh,
of the
in
instructions
here. Okay.
in the recipe itself.
Yeah.
So we don't want to edit that one. We want to go back into code where you had the raw YAML
Oh, okay.
file.
Okay.
We're just going to
Gotcha.
tweak it in there.
Cool.
Um, So what we want to do in here is maybe as the first line of instructions. So after line 4, we'll just indent that and we'll say, don't don't prompt me. Just go ahead and do the following work, or don't ask questions. Like we basically want to say like work autonomously at this task.
Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, and then let's go run it again.
Okay. Okay, so
Okay.
now it's doing
And
it.
there it's off and running. So hopefully now it should come up and say like the 5 posts are the same or something like that, and there's nothing else to do. Hopefully it's going
Okay.
to realize that we don't need to actually go update that document.
Okay. Oh, maybe it has to cache it once first, or there's a cache file there. Wait, oh, let's see here. Writing notes. Here's a summary. Okay.
Okay, so it has been updated. If you have further adjustments, let me know. So at this point, it basically went and did all of that autonomously. It rewrote that file for us, even though we told it not to do that analysis if the URLs were the same. So there might
Okay.
be something that we can tweak in that instruction. But if you don't mind spending the tokens on that, then we
Oh
can
yeah,
now
it's
just
okay.
set this up. We can just set this up as a daily cron task or whatever on
Okay.
your laptop. So we could literally just, you know, grab that command line thing that we had and or we could we could schedule it here as well, I think. So
Okay.
create schedule up in the top right, and we'll call it like writing style. We'll browse for
Okay.
that actual YAML.
Okay.
So
And
that'll
this is
be
the.
yep.
It's the recipe. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. And
Okay.
then
And
execution
then
mode, we want it to be in the background, and then how frequently do you want to run it and when. So you can say
cool.
run it every day, run it once a week. It's up to
Okay.
you.
Okay. We can do a test just to see it run. I can say like every minute temporarily, or
Sure.
every minute. Yeah. Okay. So we'll create the schedule. And where will we see this run? Like, will we be able to see like the scheduled runs somewhere?
We should see this show up as a session.
Okay.
Now on the command line, when we do Goose run, we can add dash dash no dash session, and basically that says like go run this thing in headless mode, but don't store this as a Goose session. So
Okay.
when we're in the Goose UI, how you have that history, and you'll see kind of the
Yeah.
history of all the other chats that you've done, that would basically show up in the history, or
Okay.
it should
Okay.
show up in the
Gotcha.
history. So yeah, so there's the writing
Okay.
style request again and again and again. So you'll see this show up every minute now. And
Okay.
so just to test that that's actually going to work. So you can go ahead and click
Yeah.
on that chat history and you can see like what it
There we
actually
go. It
did.
just created one.
Yep.
Yeah. Here we go.
So I don't have a sample. So that actually didn't work doing the scheduling that way.
Okay.
So which is interesting because we ran it at the command line and that worked, but scheduling it
Yeah.
from within Goose didn't work. So what we can do instead is
Interesting.
we can actually go back to your terminal and we can actually set this up as a cron job on your laptop.
Okay. Let's do that.
So
Cool.
copy that command. So you'll need to copy that command to your clipboard, and we'll just
Yeah.
paste that into cron.
Okay.
And then we may also need to know the path of Goose. So type which Goose,
Yeah. Cool.
and
That makes
then
sense.
let's copy that as well because we'll need to, or actually just let's paste here,
Okay.
and then we can just sort of grab all of that together, and we can just edit it in the cron editor.
Okay.
So what we want to
Did
do
it.
here is actually run cron tab -e,
Okay. There we
and then
go.
do you know how to do cron syntax, or I could just walk you through it?
I've done it when I worked at Netlify in my TOML
Okay.
files,
So we'll do
but yeah.
five asterisks at the beginning of the line, and that'll basically say run every minute, every hour, every day of the week,
Okay.
um, kind of thing. So you need spaces in
Cool.
between them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And then if you want like
Yes.
if you want every five, then it'll be like */5, and it'll be every 5 minutes. Or if you want it like once a day, then you can
Okay.
specify like what time of day you want it to run.
Okay.
No, so it'll be
Star
let's see.
slash
So
five. Sorry.
well we're gonna do it. Well, we're gonna do it every minute just to make sure it runs right now.
Yeah.
So we'll just do 5 stars. So just five
Okay.
asterisks in there, and then
Cool.
we'll probably need to give it the full path to Goose.
Oh yes.
So
That
if you
was
if you have that in your clipboard as well,
hold on a sec. I think it was local bin goose, but there we
dot
go.
local, yeah.
Cool.
So just grab that whole path
Cool.
and then add that at the beginning, and then we'll take the second Goose off of there. So now that's basically saying like every minute, go run Goose, go run that recipe, And then we can actually just look at the timestamp of the file and see whether it updates.
Okay.
But this will also give you an idea of what it's doing. Now, we'll probably want to do a no session flag on this.
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
Otherwise,
just to
it'll show
not
up in that.
litter the history because it's automated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. Okay, cool.
So we'll do that. Yeah,
Insert.
we can do it at the end. So dash dash no dash session.
I
Okay.
think did I put a? Yeah, I think I did. I've got that thing in the way there, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
shrink
we
it
see
down.
that fine.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, cool.
Yep. Now, the
All
other
right,
thing that we
cool.
could do here is we could tell it, we can tell the cron job to actually suppress the output. Otherwise, what's going to happen is every time you open a terminal, it'll tell you you've got mail, because it's going to
Oh, oh yeah,
capture
yeah,
all of
yeah.
the output and it's going to like send you an internal mail message on that. Where if we just
Cool.
suppress all of this and like redirect it to dev null, then we don't have to worry about that. So at the end of this
Yeah.
line, we'll do a two greater than ampersand one space. No, the number two.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. So
so I'll tell you exactly what to type. So two greater than no space. No spaces in here. I'll tell you when to do a space. So ampersand one
cool.
space greater than space slash dev slash null. And so what this will do is it'll say like whatever output happens from this, just send it to dev null. Otherwise, it's going to send you
Yeah,
that mail message of like that whole output of what we saw on the terminal.
yeah, yeah. I knew
Cool.
about dev null. I didn't know I had to do the two at there, but okay, cool.
That so the two and the one are basically like standard output and standard error, and it basically says
Oh, okay,
redirect
okay,
both of those. Like it's redirecting I think standard error into standard out, and then it's redirecting all of that to dev null. Or I
okay,
might have got the like which one is one and which one is two, but it's basically redirecting both of them to the same point and then redirecting that to dev null, so we don't see that.
okay.
Cool. So now if we just go into the folder and just do an ls on that file name of your writing.
It's in here. Yeah. Okay.
Do
Let's
do
do
a
a
do a
LA.
-L. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
way we can see the timestamp. We can just see whether it updated or not. And it looks like it
Okay. So
updated a
that's
couple of minutes ago.
yeah. That was the one that we ran manually. So it should have updated in a second here.
Well, unless it's following our instructions that say don't do any other work if nothing changed. But you
Oh,
should be able
okay.
to
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
see that. But we should be able to see that this thing has actually, been running and so on.
Okay.
Um, but
We could
just in
also
case.
do a test and like we can come to the actual writing notes and like I can just remove the URLs temporarily or like remove
Sure.
one.
Yeah.
Uh, and let's just save that and we'll wait
Or
a
even just
second.
even just empty the file and
Oh
just
yeah, the
clear the
whole
file
file.
out,
Yeah, yeah.
just feel the file out completely. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So now if we do an
Uh,
ls, we should see a 0 byte file. And
yeah,
then in about 10 seconds, your cron job should kick off.
yeah. All right, so let's do this. Yeah, okay, that's right. It
And
modified
then
because that's the
yep.
last time we cleared it out. So
And
shortly
then
we should have
hopefully,
something.
right about now, Goose is doing its thing. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll see in like
Um,
10 or 15 seconds that
yeah, it's
hopefully
just
this
got to do
works.
a bit of work.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll let that go.
Pray to the
So
demo gods. I tried a live demo last week. It didn't go well.
well, that's the beauty of live streaming. I think I mean obviously it's good when things just run smoothly, but
Mhm.
my experience has always been when things aren't working or you're struggling on something, people kind of enjoy the stream more. It's like
Yeah. Well, it's the debugging process, right? Like how do we know this is
yeah,
actually working? And if something goes wrong, like how do we know that something went wrong? Like this is 40 seconds now, so that's probably too long. Like something probably
yeah,
didn't work. So
yeah.
so let's go comment out the cron job and we can just run it manually on the command line. So we'll go
Okay.
cron tab dash E and we'll just
So
comment it out.
oh,
Oh wait.
interesting. It
Oh.
I
Oh,
did I
we
did
didn't
save
save
it and I
we
did
didn't
write to
we did save the other one because normally it would
yeah,
pop up
yeah.
on your Mac. Like, do you want to give it access to cron and whatnot?
Oh, interesting.
Let's quit this
Because
one and
I wrote
go
to
back
it
over
and
to
it
your
was
other. Can we go back over to the other
yeah.
tab? Let's just exit from here.
Okay. And because it did write it, I wrote it again, but
Yeah, but
let's
I think you
exit.
actually have to quit from here for it to actually like save it
Oh,
as your
okay.
cron. Yeah, this is the pop up that we need here. So say allow,
Okay.
and now it'll kick off in about 30 seconds, and we should see that file change.
Okay. All right, and we should see it actually fill up on the right too. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, and that's because of the keychain having to store stuff. That's why I had to do that allow,
No,
or
the
what
allow
was?
is basically it's allowing your terminal to modify your cron setup. That's what
Oh,
that was
okay, okay,
allowing.
okay.
And that's
Gotcha.
just a one time, like every time you go in and start a new terminal in your Ghost or whatever terminal or iTerm or whatever, anytime you try to change your cron tab within that session, it'll say like, "Are you sure you want to allow it to do that?" So
Okay, gotcha.
so it should be kicking off right now. So if we start watching that file, hopefully we'll start seeing population of that file here on the right side.
Yeah, it should just kind of go bloop.
Hopefully, yeah.
Um, and how would you debug this? I guess to see. I mean, the cron should run, right? Like,
Provided, yeah. So normally when I would debug this, I wouldn't do the dev null at the end, just because I
yeah. So
want to
you'd get
get
a
kind
you
of that
got
internal
mail.
message and kind of see like what it actually happened. So
Yeah.
we're not seeing anything happen here. It's been about 40 seconds again. So it makes me wonder whether something actually worked or not in that cron tab. So if we
Well,
if we go in,
let's test the whole command. Maybe it should be fine, but
yeah, or the other thing we can do is just take the dev null thing off the end.
yeah. Okay. Dollar sign.
Yep. And we'll just take off up to that point. Yeah. That's fine. And then write and quit,
Okay.
and then we'll have to wait 45 seconds or so for that to kick in.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Now, while we wait, if you do cron tab dash L, it'll just list out the cron tabs. Dash E goes into edit
Yeah.
mode. But from here, we could just grab that manually and just try and run it manually and just make sure that that's working properly.
Yeah. Cool. I've got to change the color. I like ghosty, but it doesn't the highlighting and stuff. I got to change the color. So okay, so it's running
Gotcha.
it.
So that will run it. So now it's a question of, is the cron job going to run it in 15 seconds? So you can control
Yeah.
C from here because we know that that's working.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the cron job will also kick off in 5 seconds. And if it doesn't work again, then we can see whether it tells you you have mail, and we can just go run the
Yeah.
mail command and see what kind of
I
message it left you in there.
I think I have a ton of mail in there because I started a script a while ago to scrape Reddit to just find certain things. So
Oh yeah,
I haven't checked the mail in a while, but I could
right.
probably do that in Goose instead of the script I had. So,
Mhm.
but anyways, cool. All right, so let's go. I guess check mail. April, August,
Yep.
148. So the last
Yeah.
one.
So just type the number 5 and hit enter.
Yeah. Okay. Failed to
So,
access
oh,
keyring.
okay.
Okay.
Can't access your keyring. Okay, so that's a security issue. So, yeah, I think you could probably just run it manually on the command line for now.
Yeah.
I'll have to go look at the documentation on how to tell the cron job to access your keyring. I think that there's going to be some kind of wrapper around that that you'd need.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So let's
just yeah.
so
So
let's go comment out
unrelated
that
to
cron
Goose
job.
for people watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go shut off that cron job. And that's the nice thing
Okay.
about like if that scheduler was working in Goose where we wrote that recipe the right way, then the Goose UI has access to your keychain. And so
Okay.
you wouldn't need to worry about the keychain access through that. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, we can just run that manually. Actually, we see it populated here. So it did go find that information and repopulate that file for you.
Yeah. All right. There we
So
go. Let's
now, so
comment it
now
out.
what you Yep. So now what you could do is in Goose, you could say, let's just go back over to the Goose UI and just say, based on that file, go write me a blog outline about, blocks Goose AI agent and MCP or something like that. Let's go start a new
Okay.
session because this context window is almost full. So
Yeah.
we'll just start a new chat.
How do you do new chat in here again?
Oh, you
I'm
can
trying
just
to.
Command N.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just new window. Okay.
That'll just start a new window.
Cool.
Yep. So
Cool.
you can give it the path to that file and say, based on the writing notes in this file, go write me a blog outline about and then whatever topic.
Cool. Does is the at
The at symbol is something new that we've added to Goose where you can actually give it like a reference to a file name.
okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask if it was supported, but it's clearly pulling up, but I don't know if it'll
Yeah.
okay, it is working. There we go. Except it's not finding it, but that's okay. I'll just get rid of the app for now. At users, Nick Taylor writing notes. Yeah. Okay. Based on the writing notes in here, write a blog post about what did you say? Goose's AI capabilities.
We could say like Block's Goose tool and the Dev2 MCP or something like that.
Well, all right.
And let's see what it comes up with. So it's going to have to go research some of that stuff, but we should see it access there. It's reading that file. Says, okay, based on that writing style, here's your blog post.
Okay.
Now the question is, does this actually sound like you? In the ever evolving ecosystem, like that's AI slop, like
Yeah, that
101
is
right
not
there.
me.
So yeah,
In a
so
world where
so I've got like probably about a page and a half of notes of like don't include these terms, never use emojis, like
I'm
because
always
stuff like
no
that
emojis.
you immediately know that, especially ever evolving, like that's AI right there.
Yeah.
Versatile capabilities is like, yeah, that totally sounds like Nick wrote this. And
Yeah.
so this is where kind of the initial instructions that we give it in that recipe about like how do you want it to analyze like the sentence structure. You could even be more specific, like use the same kinds of words that I use. Don't use the typical AI things like ever evolving. Like you can give it a list of
Yeah.
like do not
Don't use
ever use
delve.
these words. Yeah. So like as you see things of like, no, this isn't me, you can go back and refine those notes for how it's
Okay.
gonna like I would refine it in the recipe because that recipe now you're gonna run to go basically rewrite those writing notes for yourself. And that'll
Yeah.
just make it a little bit easier on you for like automating that process now whenever you want to run that thing to
Okay.
go analyze your tone of voice.
Yeah.
There are also some really good resources out there of like how to get AI to write things that don't sound like AI. But in this
Mhm.
case, though, we want it to sound like you. And so I would go back and refine the recipe and say, use the same kinds of words that I do. Avoid
Okay.
words that I don't use,
Okay. We can try that
or
real quick here.
avoid like 3 syllable, words that aren't typically found in my own blog posts, things like that.
Yeah. So let's just say, I'll just say avoid words like ever
So so
evolving.
so in this case though, we're telling Goose here that we're going to analyze those things. So what we would want to tell it here is analyze the kinds of words that I use.
Okay.
Because we're saying like fetch the tone of voice, grammar, conversation tone. So let's put the write all of this on a different line.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
what I would do in here is say instead of avoid words, I would say analyze the kinds of words that I use or put a high priority on the kinds of technical terms that I use or the kinds of vocabulary that I use and avoid AI generated vocabulary.
Okay.
And then yeah, you can refine this as much as you want over time of like, oh, it wrote this kind of term. Go back and add that to the recipe here. Um, or if you make a recipe about building a blog post, then you can say,
Yeah.
hey, go, now we could actually go write a recipe about the prompt about writing the blog post where we can say avoid these kinds of terms, like go use my writing style document here, but
Mhm.
also avoid like these terms and so on. And so on one hand, it's analyzing your sentence structure and the words you use, but um, so let's see, analyze the kinds of words. You probably want to pluralize words on line 19, analyze the kinds of words I use.
Yeah.
Um,
And put a high priority on the technical terms. And you mentioned something else before. I
um,
use.
so in
Uh,
here, we don't want to tell it avoid AI generated vocabulary because
oh yeah.
that's for the next step of like if you actually want to write something.
Yeah.
I would probably put in here like like you almost want to tell it to build like almost like a word cloud of like, you know, give me a list of the most common non-filler words and like write those into the document of like, because
Okay.
we almost want this writing style to be like a vocabulary that Nick usually uses. So we
Yeah.
can tell
Okay.
like write all that kind of stuff into the file. Um,
Okay. Gotcha. And we could probably even have a separate recipe which says, like, maybe go get update my word cloud and then reference the word cloud or
yeah,
is
yep.
yeah.
And
Okay.
so you can have these recipes like access all these other files and say, okay, now based on the writing analysis that you did here, based on the word cloud that we built over there, based on maybe you have it go analyze like, oh, I really like how this person writes their blog post, so I want to go analyze their stuff as well. And we can say
Okay.
like, here's how I'm writing my blogs right now, but I kind of want to write more like this person, like help me find some middle
Yeah.
ground. And then as it goes and analyzes their stuff, and it'll rewrite, it's like, oh, okay, I like the way that it's wording that now. And then as you
Yeah.
post that, that'll kind of feed back into like, okay, well, this is how Nick is writing now. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots of interesting things that we can do here around how to sort of break down the sentence structure and build out that word cloud and things like that. So we could say build a
Yeah.
word cloud document of like writing dash word cloud .md or something like that.
Save it to what is this? Says yes.
Cool.
Okay. Um and just to see that we've updated it, uh make me sound like a pirate. So, which is
Sure.
obviously not what I would blog about, but so I can run this again, I guess, and it should kick in.
Yep.
Um
So you can
so
say
here.
in your prompt, you can literally just say, do that again.
Okay, yeah. I wasn't sure if yeah,
I would say like
sure.
do all of that again. Well, actually, no, in this case though, we didn't tell it to go run that other recipe. So we would have to go run that other recipe at the in the terminal and then come
Oh
back in here
yeah.
and say do it again. So that new word cloud will be there and then we'd have to tell it to use the word cloud and so on.
Okay. So we can
Al-
yeah, okay, gotcha.
also
Yeah, so
also
we
also just time check. I think you had a hard stop in a couple minutes too. So
yeah, I got 2 minutes left. So I was gonna say like
yeah.
we can bypass the word cloud for now, but and I'll run it again and I'm sure it'll spit it out as a pirate. But yeah, no, thanks for the reminder of the time check. Yeah, I have to do something for an interview for some people at work. Um,
Yeah.
this has been pretty cool though, like just to kind of like touch on everything we talked about. So like, you know, we talked about vibe prompting. I'm glad to know I'm kind of doing that already. We talked about MCPs and the value they bring potentially to, the context and just being able to just get good answers based on extra context. And we kind of took a dive into Goose here. Like I typically used Goose mainly as just like a chat app. And I think part of it is because I didn't have the updated UI. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had recipes, the scheduler and all that stuff. So it was cool to see those things because like I'm probably gonna set up a recipe with a scheduled recipe now because the next time I blog something, like I said initially, I was doing all of this manually. So to have
Mhm.
something where it just keeps it up to date is kind of handy. And
Yeah, for sure.
obviously I can schedule other things. Um,
Yeah.
but
And I
yeah,
think
no, it's been pretty cool.
if you build the recipe within the Goose UI and schedule it within the Goose UI, everything should work okay. I think it's because we took that recipe and then we kind of like stripped it down to work on the command line so that we could do headless mode. I think
Yeah,
that's why the scheduler in here couldn't run properly because the recipe syntax was a little different. So I think if you
yeah.
build the recipe in Goose UI and schedule it
Mhm.
within the UI, it'll probably work okay.
Yeah,
So
and it also like the thing that wasn't Goose related, but getting access to the keyring, the Goose
mhm.
UI seems to enable that as well, I think. So
Yeah. Correct. Yep.
yeah, cool.
All right.
Well,
Well, good
listen,
luck with
Ian,
that other stuff.
yeah, no worries. Well, if yeah, well, we can hang for a quick second after this, but thanks everybody for joining today. Ian, thanks for taking the time. I know you got a lot on the go. This was really cool because there's you just showed me a bunch of stuff that I didn't realize Goose did already. Already, so I'm definitely gonna dig into that, or should I say delve. Um,
No, no, you would say
anyways,
dig. You would say dig.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Awesome.
I'm just gonna drop the schedule, folks, for folks if they want to check that out. Yeah, lots of other great guests coming over the next month and a bit. Lots of travel. If you're at the MCP Dev Summit in Europe, I'm gonna be there. So don't be shy, say hi. And yeah, thanks everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. And yeah, Ian, if you don't mind just staying on 1 second,
Sure.
and we'll see
Bye,
you on
everyone.
the next one.